In the 1930s and 40s, film studios churned out B movies to tag together as double bills or to play during cheap afternoon matinees. Many of them were quick thrillers or horror movies. In addition to some of the bigger studios who made B movies as quickie cash makers, small studios, the likes of Monogram, Crown International, and AIP, dedicated themselves wholly to the films, often out of financial necessity. These movies were shot quickly and for cheap, and it often showed, but they were almost always entertaining in one way or another, or at very least a decent way to spend an afternoon or evening. But it should also be acknowledged that B movie production teams could make genuinely good movies despite working with very tight limits and restrictive conditions. A prime example of this is The Monster and the Girl from 1941, a monster movie about an ape, a surprisingly flourishing subgenre during the era. The film opens with an intro spoken to the camera by one of our leads, Susan Webster, played by Ellen Drew. We learn that her brother is on trial for the murder of a man, and we follow part of the trial as it proceeds. Her brother Scott is accused of murder, but he maintains his innocence, saying that he's been set up. Ellen knows this is true and believes that her testimony can prove it. Much of what is brought up during the trial is fleshed out in flashbacks. We see that Susan left her small hometown hoping to find a life of excitement in the big city. Scott is content with the simple life, but encourages his sister to pursue the path that she believes will make her happy. This scene has the hokiest and most expositional dialogue of the entire movie, and this section feels like something of a morality play at times. While in the city, Susan meets and falls in love with a man named Larry Reed. After spending time together, the two marry and set out for an evening of celebration. Susan wakes up the next morning and finds her new husband gone and a shady gangster in her room. Ellen is understandably confused and frightened and asks for an explanation. The man offers no details but intimidates her and gives her very thinly veiled threats about what will happen if she doesn't comply with what he says. He explains to her that she will work for his boss, the gangster kingpin W.S. Brule. She will have to work in one of their mob-run establishments and essentially says that she has been entered into white slavery. Scott comes to the city looking for his sister and eventually gets a lead. Agreeing to meet up, he arrives and finds out he's being framed for a murder, set up by Brule and his gang. We go back to the trial once more, which is wrapping up. The nature of the work that Ellen has been forced into is never stated explicitly, and the Hays Code governing films at the time wouldn't have allowed it. The MPAA apparently forced some changes in the script to talk around it, but it's clearly outlined in a few scenes, including during her courtroom testimony.
Will you kindly explain to the jury the nature of your occupation, how you live? Thank you.
It was a very bold choice for the time, and I'm surprised censors even allowed them to imply as much as they did, but I applaud the team behind the film for sticking to it as much as they could and trying to insert some realism. The judge finds Scott guilty and sentences him to death. While being taken away, he swears revenge against the gang members present, most of whom have been snidely watching the trial. On the eve of his execution, Scott is visited by a Dr. Perry, who asks if Scott will donate his body to science after his execution, and Scott agrees. It's a little over half an hour into the movie before Scott's body is rolled into the lab, and the film remembers that it's about a vengeance-seeking gorilla. Normally, this would be annoying, and the film could be accused of taking too long to get to the point, but I think it's played its hand very well, building a story and characters that you can actually be invested in. So much so that this portion of the movie feels like a deserved moment when the suspense increases and the narrative can move into the next stage. A steady hallway shot through the mansion and into a hidden lab shows off some excellently put together sets. It's actually too bad the camera doesn't explore these areas more because a lot of work went into setting them up, and usually a film like this enjoys showing off its set pieces. I can only assume the sets were reused from another film, and so Paramount figured they didn't have to show them off too much, but if they were reused from another movie, I don't recognize it offhand. The steady, accordion-like squeak of the respirator blends in with the tensely holding high-pitched string instruments on the soundtrack, and it sets the mood perfectly. The experiment is a success and Scott slowly recovers, now in the body of a gorilla. From here, he sets out on a mission to take vengeance on those who harmed his sister and had him wrongfully executed for a murder he didn't commit. One by one, he kills the gang associates, their fear and paranoia growing with each attack, never sure who will be next. Of course, as is the case with this type of movie, it all builds to a tragic climax. I mean it when I say this is one of the best movies of its kind. Despite the silliness of the premise, there's some genuinely good filmmaking here. Take, for example, the scene with the guard outside the prison during Scott's execution. He sees the lights flickering, indicating that the electric chair is drawing power, meaning that it must be midnight when the executions take place. Noting this, he calmly sets his pocket watch to it. No sound, all done with visual indicators and character movements, a small but perfect use of the film medium. The sets, camera work, and lighting evoke more of a polished film noir than a low-budget monster movie. The rooftop sequence where Scott, the gorilla, is tracking one of the gangsters is much more cinematic and well shot than most of the B movies of the time ever tried to be. To be clear, this film is full of hard-boiled noir and mad science cliches, and the plot is ridiculous, but there was an attempt to make it feel more polished and sincere than many of its contemporaries, and I feel it succeeded. Still very much a B movie of its time, but a higher caliber of one. Proof that even a low budget, melodramatic monster movie could punch above its weight and look and feel like something more. The film feels like equal parts crime thriller and monster movie, honestly leaning to the former more at times, but still able to bring out the mad science creature feature staples when needed. It would make a great double bill with Boris Karloff's The Walking Dead. The performances are pretty great all around, but I have to give special praise for Ellen Drew, who gave this role more heart and personality than you would expect from this kind of movie. And Gerald Moore as Munn, who plays the perfect slick but devious gangster. He has a sly and dangerous presence in every scene he's in. Also, I know it's an easy way to pull at an audience's heartstrings, but the role and storyline of the dog in the movie, played by a dog actor named Skipper, is genuinely very touching to me. The gorilla suit is surprisingly detailed and well articulated. The role was performed by Charlie Gamora, who played gorillas in a great number of movies during the time. He studied gorillas extensively at the San Diego Zoo and worked hard to get the portrayal right every time he went in front of the camera. He worked on his own makeup as well, and I have to say the face in this movie is really well done, especially the eyes, blending in with the rest of the mask, which would be very hard to do. It's a very admirable attention to detail. The movie fits a lot into its lean runtime of just over an hour, and it's a testament to the fact that limited budget doesn't mean a movie has to appear poorly made. So if you're looking for a classic B movie that has a little more to offer than most, you should definitely check this one out.